And I'm Billye Brim, and this is my youngest child of 4, Chip Brim.
The baby.
Yeah, the baby. And he
just call me baby.
And he ate it up, I'm telling you right now. He milked it for all it's worth.
He still milks
it. He's still milking it, says his wife Candace, Pastor Candace
all
Brim.
it's worth, yes.
And they are from a glorious church fellowship in Collinsville, Oklahoma. Now, I want to start today because we've been talking about your race. We've been talking about your call on your life. I think you're going to talk about being ready for that. I want to read a scripture, and this comes from chapters 30 and 31 in Jeremiah, are all about where Israel will be and God's plan for Israel. And it says in Jeremiah 30:24, in the latter days you shall consider this. And the latter days, well, that's what King James says. It talks about the latter days. But the Hebrew always talks about the end of days. Yeah. It always says the end of days. Now, we're going to look and see what that is all about. This term, the end of days. I use this chart a lot because to me it's simple. And this is something that was given to Moses when Moses, he didn't just sit on the top of an ice cream cone mountain, put his feet on a little slab for 40 days and then another 40 days and then another 40 days. No, he went up to heaven. He got the pattern for the tabernacle. He got Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible. He got the 10 Commandments. Now, God gave him an oral law, which he was to give to pass the baton, give it to Joshua, and then he was to give it to the next and the next. They were not supposed to write it down. But then when their temples were burned, they decided they better write it down, and it became what we call the Talmud, the Mishnah. Now, this is something from the Talmud, and it's an early thing that was given. And this was what Moses told that God said to Adam. He's giving you dominion over the earth, and he's giving you a work week. God worked 6 days and rested on the 7th. Now, Adam, I'm giving you dominion on the earth. Let's see what you can do in a 6-day work week. And so each of those days is 1,000 years. How do we know that? There's a witness in the Old Testament and the New. Psalm 92, I think, and 2 Peter. A day with the Lord is as 1,000 years. 1,000 years is as a day. So, Adam, each of your days, now I believe that the earth is however long true science needs. You can see this. Genesis 1:1 and Genesis 1:2 are probably billions of years apart. There was a pre-Adamic civilization. There was a time when as Lucifer fell. And then there was a time when the earth lay under these dark waters until God moved on it again in what you might call the recreation in Genesis 1:2. My book, The Blood and the Glory, I go into that. So if I don't have time to go into it here. But Adam was created 6,000 years ago. 6 days. The 6-day work week. So Adam was told, and this is written in the Sanhedrin 97a of the Talmud. Each of these days is 1,000 years, and they are divided into 3 different sections. Each of those sections is 2,000 years. The first one are the days of chaos. And then comes the law, the written law. And the next 2,000 years are the days of the Torah. And then comes the Messiah. He is to come at the end of the 4th day. Now, when you read in the Talmud, 97 Sanhedrin 97a, it will say that he's to come here. They faithfully record what was given to Moses. But they've got an asterisk down here, and it says he didn't come because we were not ready. But he did come. There were people watching for him, Anna, Simeon, Joseph of Arimathea. They knew it was time. Many Jews knew it was time. And it says many Jews accepted him. And then began what is called by God, since the beginning, right here in Jeremiah even, the end of days. The end of these 6 days is divided into 2,000-year time, and day 5 and day 6. And when Peter's preaching on the day of Pentecost, and he says, these are the end of days that Joel spoke about, he was at the beginning of the end of days. How long ago was Peter speaking there? 2,000 years, 2 days. So we're here. We're to the end of days. We are the generation. We are the last lap of the race. Then Jesus is going to, there's a 7-year tribulation. Jesus is going to appear right here. He's coming back, catch up the church in catching away the harpazo. And then we're going to the marriage supper of the Lamb. Down here on earth is the time of Jacob's trouble, 1 week, Daniel's 70th week of years. I'm putting in a lot here, but I just want you to see one thing. Then we're going to have, the Lord is going to set up his kingdom on the earth, the visible kingdom of the Lord Jesus Christ in what we call the millennium, the 7th day. Now, here we are. We are here. There is no, well, actually here, there's no way around it. Well, I don't know what that thing is, but anyway, I'll just erase it. We're here. 2,000 years ago. 2,000 years ago, you can't get by that. History proves it. So if anybody's ever going to be the last lap of the leg of the race, it's us. And so that's what we're talking to you about today. So Chip?
Well, after what we just heard right there, there's going to be a lot of people thinking, I'm not ready.
Right.
I don't feel ready.
Yeah.
And maybe we can get more ready, but the feeling ready's a tricky word when it comes to following God and doing his will, because I started going through the Bible and I thought about, well, who was ready?
Right.
And I remember my dad, and at the funeral, and I was prophesied over, and I thought, well, Dad didn't get ready or didn't feel ready. Well, Moses didn't feel ready.
No.
To return to Egypt to tell Pharaoh to let his people go.
Yeah.
He didn't feel real ready.
No.
So I'm talking about the feeling of being ready. Gideon didn't feel ready.
No.
No.
When God says, mighty man of valor, you got the wrong dude. Jonah didn't feel ready to go save Nineveh, that great city. Jeremiah didn't feel ready to be a prophet to the nations. Did a young Mary, a young virgin teenager, feel ready to bear or carry the Son of God? No. The Bible records the accounts of all these people, and not only their accounts, but them telling how they weren't ready.
They told God.
They told him.
I stutter.
Yeah.
So the question is, are you ready? Well, the thing about it is, God doesn't. He didn't ask them whether they felt ready or not.
No.
Never does.
Therefore, when he calls you,
Right.
that must mean you're ready.
Right.
You're ready for the call.
And I remember in youth rallies in different places, I would have the people, I would say, are you ready? And I would instruct them. There's only one answer a champion would give, and that's I was born ready, and then do a hooah. And I thought it was fun. And then one time the Lord spoke to me about it, and he said, there's truth to that. He says, when you're born ready, when you're born I'm born ready. I'm born again. I'm ready.
Right.
When I got born again, I've got equipped and everything I need to do what I'm called to do. Now, whether you feel like it or not,
Right.
nobody did. Nobody has felt like it, and God didn't ask him, hey, do you feel ready?
No, never does.
And that ain't going to happen. So are we ready and willing? And you may think, well, it's impossible. Well, great, because God is the God of impossible, right? He can do anything. There's nothing impossible with God. So whatever's holding you back, if it's feelings of not being ready, nobody felt ready. Did you feel ready when God called you? I mean, think about it. You didn't even know. You didn't even know what lied ahead.
Oh, no.
The going into Russian and, running from the KGB and...
Right.
It's a good thing he doesn't show you all that.
Right. It's
when you sense that he's calling you to do something. Good thing he doesn't.
Oh, yeah. Think about with pastoring. If he would have called you and said, oh, later on you're going to be pastoring, would you have run that race? No.
No, there's things that I remember Brother Copeland talking about a story how he asked God early in his ministry to show him what it was going to be like, and the Lord said no. It was just a real simple no. And then years later, he explained to him why he didn't show him. Because he wouldn't have had the faith to, if he'd have showed him people on phones across the world and this, it would have been hard to believe.
Such a big millions of dollars budget.
Right, that he has to believe for every month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So seeking God. Seeking, Mom, I'm totally convinced. And you want to know, what do I do to run this race? I'm convinced that Matthew 6:33 is the answer to absolutely everything. Seek ye first
Yeah.
the kingdom of God
It
and his
is.
righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. And that's when that changed my life. And I remember calling you, what does seek mean? All I had back then was the concordance that was handed down, marked up, and all
Falling
of that.
apart. Yeah.
And you said, well, I'll do some study on it, but I know Hebrew.
Seek, yeah.
And found out that one of the words it means is crave. It's a craving. Are you seeking me? I kept getting from God, are you seeking me?
Yeah.
And I would say, well, Lord, I'm going to church. Check. Lord, I'm paying my tithes. Check. Lord, I read my Bible at night. Check. I'm Billy's boy. Check. I'm putting anything in I can.
All your...
He didn't want the list.
No.
I found out later. He wanted my heart. He wanted my heart. Are you seeking me like your teams seek the championships every year? No. I said, that's not fair. I don't have enough time. And I went, oh my God, I just gave God an excuse.
Yeah.
And I preached to my players, no excuses. Champions don't give excuses. And I told him I don't have enough time to seek him. I said, Lord, I'm here. Here we go. Let's go. My flesh didn't like it, but here we go.
How'd you do it?
I just started getting tapes, back then. Brother Hagin, you,
Cassettes.
Mark Hankins, and just feeding. And if I thought it was important, I'd write it down. And then I'd do some time of praise and worship where it was just coming into his presence with thanksgiving and praise. And what was happening was...
You were coaching at the time.
Yeah. I was building my spirit man back up. Now we're spirit, soul, and body. Mom always says, whichever you feed the most of those three will dominate the other two. For the first time in my life, I was going to church, but for the first time in my life, I started to feed my spirit more. To where a phone call happened from my boss, he tried to take that time that I had set aside for
Was
God.
that your noon hour you'd set aside?
Lunchtime.
And I'm being as nice as I can because I love my boss, but it came down to the fact that I said, listen, and this came out of my mouth. I couldn't believe it came out of my mouth. I said, well, then I'm going to have to find another job. Do you know what happened right there? My spirit man overrode my mind and my flesh and spoke out of my mouth faith. Then God will just find me another job because I'm not going to stop seeking God. Listen, I started going, no. I wanted to put those words back in my mouth. I didn't want to say, no, who didn't want to say that? My mind and flesh. But I had filled my spirit. What you were doing when I was a kid, tapes were on 24/7. When I do this, I'm talking about reel-to-reel
tapes they were.
Or they were in a cassette deal. In our house, you could hear them down the block. They were on full auto. You didn't have them just barely.
Well, I was walking around, and you didn't have those things that stick in your
No.
ears. So if I walked to put the laundry in, or if I went to do the dishes, or I walk into I had to be able to hear it.
Well, we heard it. The whole neighborhood heard it.
That's a good thing. Help that neighborhood. Yeah.
And he said, are you serious? And I said, yeah. And I said, I guess so. And he said, okay. And we changed the time. And I hung up the phone. And the Lord said, now you're seeking me.
Now
And that's the first time in my life.
First, you're seeking me first.
That you're seeking me first.
Yeah.
Now, guess what? All these things will be added. Here come the calling. Here come the ministry. Here come the race.
Yeah. You're ready for the first lap.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
he asked me if I was seeking him. And that's a good question for everybody listening or watching it today. From God.
It is.
It's
oh
simple.
my Jesus,
it's simple
it
now. He
is.
doesn't
Oh
make it
my
hard.
Jesus,
It's not hard.
it
It's
is.
not calculus. It's not trigonometry. It's not, rocket science. Are you seeking me? Well, and if you come up with a list,
That's not quite it.
that's not what he's talking about. Of doing, and there's nothing wrong with doing, but you know what I mean.
Sure do.
Seeking God. And of course I remember you and how you would seek God. And that's when the impossible becomes possible. All I knew how to do was coach. I told God that.
Right.
I don't feel ready. Mom peeled potatoes. I'm sure she wasn't real feeling ready if he would have showed her everything. But the Lord didn't ask if we were ready or not or felt ready.
I want to intersect something here. Interject it. You said, did you feel ready when you were called? I knew I was called at 3 years old. I felt ready. I was a little country girl, lived in the farm. I'd go to my grandma's house, and she lived in an apartment in the city. I'd gather up all the kids, because there were kids there, and I'd just preach up a storm. I'd take the leaves, and I'd lead the singing out of the leaves. I'd pass the leaves for offering. Then I'd preach out of the leaves. But then I grew up. And when I grew up and my mind started going, this got in the way, that got in the way, this got in the way, that got in the way. And God had to get me back.
Yeah, right.
He had to get me back on a place of seeking Him.
Yeah.
And that was when Chip was, I don't know, about 5 years old, I suppose, 4 years old. And I'm telling you, I became the Holy Ghost hunted me down. He hunted me down. I always start my story with Pat Martin, but it was before that. I just became, the Holy Ghost just made me know, you're not in the right place.
Yeah.
I was doing everything right.
Yeah.
I thought, I went to church. I made sure my kids went to church.
Yeah. Yeah.
I led the junior choir. I taught in the.
Well, there's a list.
Oh my
You're
God!
given
There was
a
my list.
Yeah.
There was
Yeah.
my list.
Yeah.
But God maneuvered me, son, like a ship. I heard Brother Hagin talk to Kenneth Copeland. God has maneuvered you like a ship into a harbor, and He maneuvered me to the feet of Kenneth Hagin. But then I had to decide: is this man? I remember sitting in front of him. The first week I was there and went to hear his seminar, and he taught on the baptism of the Holy Spirit. Every night he would get up and he would say, because the Lord told him he had not been giving enough attention to his healing ministry, but you got to start talking about it again. He talked about it every night. Every night he would say, we were in Rockwall, Texas, and it had rained all day, and the mud sticks. If you will stick with the mud, it'll stick with you. And the people came out to the tent, and I heard a voice, and the voice said, come up hither to the throne of God. And God caught me up before the throne, and He laid the finger of His hand in my right hand and said, I'm giving you an anointing to pray for the sick. Every night he got up, and then he said, then if you will receive it, da-da-da-da. Every night. I am not used to talking in tongues. I am not used to people calling themselves prophets. I am not used to anybody getting caught up to heaven. And I had to make a decision. I had to decide to take the baton. A baton was being offered me from God Himself.
Yeah.
And every night, I remember, I have got to decide. This thing came up in front of me. It was a decision. Like this.
Right.
I could almost see it. I've got to decide, is this man crazy? Now here's my choices. He's crazy. He's a liar.
Brother Hagin.
Yeah. This man is either crazy, with all this imagination, he's a liar, or he knows God better than anyone I've ever known. And I remember the night I took that baton.
Yeah. You received
He knows
it.
God better than anybody I've ever known.
Yeah.
Brother Hagin was reaching.
He was reaching.
You needed to receive.
I needed to receive. I could have made another decision, son.
Right.
My training, my denominational training was, he's either lying or crazy. That didn't happen to people. But oh my God. What lay in that, taking that baton?
Yeah.
You lay in it. The church laying it. All those people that are in your congregation
Are part of that.
taking that baton.
Sometimes we only see our limitations or our meager resources, or how can we make just one person a major impact in this huge world. But of course, we may be small, but God is big.
And it's him and us.
And
We
that's-
may have limitations, but he's limitless. And this is what you find out when you get in here.
You can do it, Moses,
We might be weak,
but he's strong.
but he is strong. We may be imperfect, but he's perfect.
Yeah.
That's what Paul said. I'm going to brag on my weaknesses.
Yeah, he did.
He said, I'm going to brag
Yeah.
on my weaknesses because when I'm weak, then I'm strong. He's
Yeah.
bigger in me.
And we may fail, but God never fails.
No, my Jesus, never. I remember Vep Ellis, Sr. He wrote songs, and he sang with Oral Roberts. And he wrote this song, sang it all the time with Oral. Little is big when God is in it.
That's good.
Here's all I got, Lord, these 5 loaves and 2 fishes here.
I know. I was thinking about that. You talk about limited, but and we may have limitations, and the disciples were limited,
Yeah, we
But-
got all these people.
but
Yeah.
he's limitless.
Yeah.
So you're just taking what you got, son.
And if the boy would have kept his little limited lunch, it
No,
would-
you can't have it. It's all I
yeah,
got.
it would have remained
Yeah.
little. And if you hold on to your little,
Right.
it will remain little.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
Jesus
Yeah.
takes the little and he takes the limited, and he looks up to heaven and he gives thanks for it, just like he did that boy's lunch.
Right.
Can you imagine that little boy, what he's thinking of watching Jesus hold up his lunch?
I saw Mama
I
make that
think
bread.
about the mama who prepared the lunch.
Yeah, she had to make the bread. You didn't buy
Yeah.
the bread at the store.
Jesus was about to multiply this little into a great abundance. Don't hold on to your little. Don't do it.
No. No.
God is limitless. You know, feed your spirit.
Feed your spirit.
Yes.
Seek the Lord.
Seek
Yeah.
the Lord.
And then, one time, Mama, he told me, he said, don't seek your race, seek my face. Don't seek the place, seek my face.
And then the race and the place will be added
There
to
you
you.
go.
Right.
And what does face mean in Hebrew?
Presence.
The presence of God. Every time it's talking about the presence of God, it talks about being in His face.
Yeah.
Seek His face. Practice
Be
His
in His
presence.
presence.
And he'll take your little and he'll make it much.
Yes, he will. Trust me, he will.
Trust him.
Yeah.
A little
Trust.
Baptist girl.
Yeah. He took my little and helps every day. You know, I was just sitting here thinking, if you're out there and you're one of those people that I'm not ready, I don't have anything to offer, that's a lie. That's the enemy. And you just give him your little every day. You seek his face, you give him your little, and he'll take what little you give him and he'll expand it. We don't expand it. He expands
So
it.
feelings don't matter. Feelings.
No, it does not matter.
We don't go by feelings.
No, we don't.
And he never asked anybody, hey, you feel ready yet, Moses?
No.
Hey, get in. You feeling?
No, he's not.
Moses never would have gone.
No.
None of us
And
would
neither
have
will
gone.
we.
None
So,
of us.
Praise the Lord. Our time. Brother Hagin used to say, well, I see our time has slipped away again. That's what he would say on the radio programs. But we'll be back in a little bit. Kenneth E. Hagin, baton by baton, he
Yeah.
handed things to me. I remember the first one was the integrity of the Word. The Word of God is the will of God. The Word of God is God's thoughts. It's God's thoughts written down for you to think them after Him. Little by little, I would learn faith. You walk by faith and not by sight. You don't walk by feelings, you walk by what the Word says. And then he told me one day, I'm going to teach a seminar on love. And I went to the seminar. This is still at 1029 North Utica when our offices were there. And I had my little steno pad, and I thought I was a champion at it, walking in love. Been born again by this time, I don't know, 30 years or whatever, I don't know, long time. And he taught love like I had never heard it, and how to do it. And it's in this book. All that love, you know, with the chili story, and your love with the victory at the courtroom. It all came because I
it's
sat.
the way to victory.
It's the way to
that's
victory.
the name of
And I sat there and I heard how to do it. And this book and my little tape of me being there at that seminar and what I learned, we're going to give to you for, I think it's $20. And we'll include shipping for that. We'll include shipping for $20. Here, I just happened to see this right here. Forgive people just like God forgives you, so you can stay in the love walk. Let the love of God dominate you. Then you can claim the victory in every area of your life. You're not going to be able to claim the victory in every area of your life if you're not a law keeper. And the law is love.
Love.
And faith works by love. Be it unto you according to your faith. Shalom. Be with us next week.